So we saw some of the concepts with Brady that he was going to be in this year's Bowman draft. He was going to be getting, I think it's his first, it would probably be his first Bowman. Let me just take a quick look at the actual cards themselves really quickly. I know I had like a link up. It doesn't say first Bowman on the card. Like, it doesn't have the first Bowman logo, so I guess I'm not actually 100% sure if it is his first Bowman. I think it probably is. Like, unless he... No, I think it would be. So, either way, we've seen the concepts have been coming out with the Tom Brady first Bowmans, and, well, not the concept, actually, the actual cards, actually, not just the concepts. And so the one of one... Michael Rubin posted an image with Brady signing a bunch of the cards, and he signed the 12 of 50 with something along the lines of, if football doesn't work, or no, if baseball doesn't work out, there's always football. So basically creating another one of one. And so this is I guess this would be like the second time that one of the top athletes within a product has been promoted by Fanatics as signing kind of with like an inscription. I can't speak. So I wonder if this card is actually going to be in the product. I have a sneaking suspicion, actually, that I don't think this 12 of 50 is actually even going to be in the product at all. I think that they're going to do a redemption type situation like they did with the Victor Wembanyama card, like that first Bowman that he signed. That was like first ever autograph or first ever, however he signed it. I forget off the top of my head how he signed it. But the fact that like Rubin and Tom Brady are kind of like boys in a way, it makes me think that they're going to do some sort of party the same way they did with the Victor Wembanyama card for this, the 12 of 50, because like, I don't know, it seems like creating basically what would be a second one of one doesn't really make much sense because, or I don't know, it makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because from a marketing perspective, it makes sense because creating multiple versions of what could be the best card within a product, I think obviously creates more buzz about the product, but does it hurt the collectors trying to collect the cards, or does it hurt the cards themselves? And it actually almost brings up the question that I think, like, do these concepts, like, and I'm putting hurt in quotation marks, which would be like resale price is essentially what I'm talking about by hurting the price of the card. Like, does creating multiple of these different cards within a product actually make the experience better because it helps, or no, because does it help the experience of a person opening the box more because you're creating other opportunities for someone to pull a one of one without it having to be a one of one. Like, I don't know if all of the, like if the number to 99s or if there are only like number to 50 and then there are other low numbers, like it almost seems like why wouldn't there be like is there going to be a 12 of 12? Like that seems like that would be a parallel that they would do, like some sort of different colored parallel, but it's like, are all the number 12 cards in this product going to be inscripted with some sort of thing? And like I said, hurting the price of the resale value of the cards, does that then, or does it spread out the price? Because I think that's actually where I think that Fanatics has done an interesting job at, like I said, creating opportunities for collectors to get good cards, but like also make them sort of affordable. I think I think that's one way. What I'm trying to say is like the pricing of the cards. Does it spread out the pricing of the cards to make some of them more affordable for collectors? It's like if you can't get to one of one, like if you get to 12 of 50, like ultimately what is more valuable? Like, Is the 12 of 50 more valuable, or is the 1 of 1 more valuable? Does the 1 of 1 being a 1 of 1 make that card more valuable, or does the fact that this number 12 of 50 has an inscription, making it essentially a 1 of 1? Because, like I said, unless he wrote this on multiple different cards, like, it essentially is creating a second 1 of 1 without having it to be stamped that way. And again, like I said, there's a couple different things here that I'm thinking about. Like, is this card actually going to be in the product? And like, if it comes out that it's not going to be the product, then I actually have a little bit of an issue of that, because honestly, Fanatics is coming out with these images promoting that this card is a thing. But like, if it's not going to be in the product, then what's the point of promoting that it's a card? Like, or at least, like, why not just wait until the product has been out a little bit of time to promote that this is a concept? Like, same with the Victor Wembanyama. Realistically, I think that Victor Wembanyama one first Bowman autograph that he had, that was like the first Bowman ever or whatever. I actually think it was a mistake that they came out with, like, I think that they maybe had him sign more than 99 green number to 99 cards, and that the one ended up being like a different card that was supposed to be in the product, and they only put a certain amount of redemptions, and it totally kind of messed up the process. I could see them doing that with the Tom Brady. And, you know, I'll sort of wrap things up here, and I think my final point with the concept of, like, spreading out the value of these cards, like, is Fanatics, like, and I'm going to say this not in a negative way, is Fanatics devaluing the harder to get cards within products, and devaluing them in a way that's, like, not necessarily, like, if we look at I think Card Ladder, they have like their CL50, I think is what it's called, or they have like their indexes. Like, if you were to look at the indexes of all of these Tom Brady rookies, like, is making some of the cards unique in a way that isn't making it a 1 of 1? Is that bringing down the value of the 1 of 1, or is that just shifting the value to a different card, and then shifting maybe values of other cards in that set a different way, making them maybe a little bit more accessible for people to buy? Like, and that's sort of what I mean by devaluing. Like, you know, maybe the Tom Brady, I don't know really what the price of it is going to be. I think I saw like I saw a bounty that said like 50K for the card. Like, I don't know. I mean, we've come through a certain era in sports cards where it's like the pricing of cards, like I said, is determined by the market. I've talked about this in other episodes. It's determined by the market, but like, could sometimes the market be incorrect about the value of the cards? Now, I am in the boat where I'm like, well, the market is the market. The market determines what the value is. But, like, are people maybe valuing these cards a little bit too highly? Like, is this 1 of 1 being valued a little bit too high? I'm not really sure. Like, but if the card if it's bought and sold, you know, then whatever the card is bought and sold for, that is the market for the card. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. So the devaluing of some of these cards, like, I use that in a sense that, like I said, are they shifting the, like, instead of there being like the one card that's the most expensive card in the whole entire set, are they making it so there's like 3 or 4 different versions of what could be the most expensive card? Like, instead of there being one version, there's like I said, there's this 1 of 1, and then there's the 12 of 50. Like, and then if there are other ones, like, are they making it so they're spreading out the value, making these cards a little bit more accessible for collectors? I think that will be an interesting concept, and I think it's probably going to take some time for these cards to actually come out of the product to actually see if that's realistic or if that's going to happen. But the autographs for Brady, I would imagine they should be in the product. You know, like I said, Michael Rubin took pictures with the Brady cards, so like, I'm hoping they're not redemptions. But with the product coming out fairly soon, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't think they're going to be redemptions, but right now, we know that the cards are at least signed. So if there are going to be redemptions, that we know that the cards are at least live for people to send in their redemptions and get those cards back as soon as possible. Shout out to GemRate, because they're one of our partners on Hobby News Daily. Like, if you go to if you go to hobbynewsdaily.com, I'm just actually going to go, and then you go to gem rate. It's actually in the main menu. If you click on that, you'll see he puts out a daily grading, like a daily grading graphic, basically, of like how many cars were graded the day before. So from the 9th, so that probably was over the weekend. But if you go there, you can find that data. And I think we're one of the only places other than his Twitter that has that data. So like I said, go check that out. But he just dropped one of the more comprehensive tools I think we've ever seen within sports cards. I mean, it is really, so I suggest going to it and going to @GemRate on Twitter, and then he posted a link in there so it's called the Iconic Tracker. He's calling it the Iconic Tracker and Universal Pop Report Preview. So as of right now, it's using the PWCC Iconic 100 list of what they went. I think it was either last year or it was maybe at the beginning of this year. They put out like a list of the top 100 cards, the iconic cards within the hobby. I don't know if it was voted on. I forget exactly how they came up with the list, but there are 100 cards on there. And, obviously it starts out, you got number 1, Mickey Mantle, to the Topps 1952, then the 1986 Fleer, the 33 Gaudy, and a couple different cards. Then you got like the exquisite LeBron. But here's what the tool is. It is, it's really actually even hard to honestly explain how comprehensive this data is. Like, it has all of the grades of every single one of these cards, from PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGC. So, for example, there were 1,900 total 1952 Mickey Mantles graded by PSA, 3 PSA 10s, 6 PSA 9s, 5 PSA 8.5s, 35 8s. It also has just like all of the like Beckett percentages as well. Like, there are no, I don't believe, I'm just looking at, there's no Mickey Mantles graded above an 8 in a Beckett slab, which is pretty wild. But so this list has all that data for all 100 cards. And like the Luka card, for example, is on this list. It's down, I think they actually made it like card number 80 or something along those lines. But you can go and you can look at all of these data points, and then you can go to like monthly trends of how often. Like, that brings you to a different website. It's not all within this chart, at least for right now. It brings you to a different tab, basically, and it shows you like how many of those cards were graded by month. So right now they have from January 2022, they have each month up until November. And so, for example, the 1952 Mickey Mantle was graded 13 times by PSA in the month of November, which is the most. No, July of this year, it was graded 16 times, which I'm guessing is probably because of like the National, maybe. Like, maybe people dropped them off of the National, and that's why that card was graded so often. And then maybe in November, I think there was the Sports Card Spectacular, potentially. I think that was early on in November, so maybe that's another reason why that card was graded so much. But it says, like, but it's not only PSA either. And again, I'm learning this tool, and I'm looking at this tool kind of in real time, and it really, if you like data, it really is one of the best pieces of sports card data you're going to find. Like, for example, I'm going to go to the Michael Jordan Fleer card and do pretty much the same data. Let's pull these same numbers here. Let's go to monthly trend. Let's look this up. I'm sure these numbers are probably far larger than, again, yeah, July and November were the highest. Nope, that's actually not the right one. That's not the right list. Yeah, it brings you to the same list. It's just in a different order, basically. So yeah, for Michael Jordan, again, July, there were 230 Michael Jordans graded in July. Like, I've talked about this on the podcast probably like, I don't know, Thursday or Friday of last week, that they were catching a bunch of fakes, which I thought was pretty wild. But so you can still see that, like, in July, for example, 230 graded versions of the Michael Jordan Fleer were graded by PSA, which was 68% 7% of the card's total graded. So they have CGC, SGC, and BGS numbers in there. It was graded by BGS in July 68 times, SGC 40 times. And here's where I think this tool is almost bigger than I think the tool itself, because I think it's helping the overall health of buying and selling sports cards. And what I mean by that is, like, if we were to go back to 2018, 2019, there really was only a few good resources on if we were to go before, before the sports card investor app was invented, before the card ladder app was invented, there really wasn't much historical data. Like, I know PWCC did have like a eBay tracker tool, like when they still were connected to the eBay API, like you could still find, but it was really, I remember using it, it felt very janky, like it didn't feel like Card Ladder or any of those things, which, I mean, now Card Ladder obviously is owned by PSA, so they're obviously going to have much more help from a developer standpoint if they want to launch a new tool. But like this data and Card Ladder and Sports Card Investor, it is helping people within sports cards. And like I said, what I mean by health of buying and selling is, like, I feel like when there weren't as many tools, it was much more based on, like, if people were buying and selling cards, it was much more based on like 1 to 2 data points. Like, you could look at how many PSA 10s there were of that card. You could look at the last, like, 30 days worth of sales on eBay. Like, there really wasn't this comprehensive list of, like, all of these different tools, which I have said have been completely revolutionizing. I think technology and social media and all of these tools have revolutionized the sports card industry in a way that we really have never seen. And because if you look at even, I don't know, maybe the 90s, I suppose, like before eBay was invented, really all you had to go on was for sales data was the Beckett, was a magazine that came out once a month. So it's like people were basing their pricing off of like that magazine. And then they could probably do a little bit of, like going around to different tables and seeing what other people were selling their cards at these shows. But then, like, if these cards were selling, like, there's no way for anybody to really know. Then, eBay comes along and that kind of adds another data point. And then, other marketplaces kind of come along, and that's more. You still had Golden, you still have some of these other auction houses. But, like, there are just so many more data points that are helping people make smarter decisions within sports cards. And although I think we definitely have seen a downtick in the prices of a lot of sports cards, I think we have seen an increase in the amount of smart buying, I guess. I think that's one way of putting it. And it may not even be necessarily smart buying. It may just be more people focusing more on like collecting rather than trying to buy and flip or buy and invest. Because like realistically, I don't know. I don't know if and the investment in sports cards, it's not almost non-existent anymore. Like you're really going to find you're going to have a bad time. Like that's just, I think that's a meme or something. Like you're going to have a bad time if you're really trying to invest in cards nowadays, like where you're looking to hold for longer than a year or 2 years. Like the shorter flips are realistically where you have to do. And again, this is where I've talked about the reinventing of the hobby. It happens almost every 6 months to a year, where it's like you have to, the strategies of buying and selling sports cards are different. And they're just it's never an industry that has been stagnant for too long. I think for the early part of the industry, you may have seen things been a little bit more stagnant, but now that technology and all of these tools have come into play, like we're just seeing people's ability to make better decisions when they're buying and selling cards, where, like I said before, you were, I don't know if vibes, I don't think that's really the term I'm looking for, but you were really going on sort of like intuition of what was going on without having much real significant data to look at to do your buying and selling, whether you were a dealer, whether you were like a shop, or if you were just buying and selling, on eBay, or just buying and selling. You really were just doing that with really only like the sales data from eBay for a while. And now it's like you're seeing, like, this doesn't have sales data. This is all grading data, but it's like you're seeing a much more comprehensive look at what these numbers actually are without having to kind of cross-reference them all yourself. And, this tool is new, so it's launching with 100 cards, which I think is fine. I think that's actually, 100 cards, it's the most iconic cards. So, like, you really are kind of looking at the top of the top in terms of, like, which cards are on this list. I would say it's probably going to be like Card Ladder, where Card Ladder continuously is adding cards into their database, and it's not like they probably do like some sort of dump of like multiple different lists of cards, but it's like, I'm sure that, GemRate will probably start doing like which cards do you want to add? And then every month or every week, or I don't know, every day potentially, they may start to, add more and more cards into this data set and make the data more comprehensive. Again, if you're not like a charts person, it may not be the tool that you like, but there are, numbers, there are tons of different ways to look at this data. And I think the title, honestly, of this podcast is going to be like, this is revolutionizing the card grading industry. Like, GemRate is probably like the next, I'll go on a limb and say, I think GemRate is probably the next big data company to really sell to somebody. That's like, we looked at Card Ladder and we looked at their tool, and they went to PSA. Like, I don't know if it's Fanatics. It's probably not a grading company, unfortunately, but I think that they're the next big grading data company to probably have some sort of big acquisition here, because like the tool that they were able to build here is revolutionary, and it is going to help people within sports cards, I think, for years to come. It's going to help people, again, make smarter decisions. It's the same reason why, like, I like doing this podcast, and, Hobbynewsdaily is really great, and there's all these great writers and people making content. It's helping people learn about the industry in a way that in the past, it just hadn't been there. Like, there hadn't been a way for people to make smarter decisions this way. So, like I said, go check out this tool. It's phenomenal, and I think it's just going to expand from here. This is just the first launch of it, and I think, honestly, it's just going to go up from here for the most part. So the biggest probably news story over the weekend was obviously the Shohei Ohtani signing. Also, the Juan Soto trade, which I didn't really talk about that because I wasn't necessarily sure how I wanted to approach it. I think with Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto, they're two stars in the league, and I think they're two players that, have their rookie cards and cards that you want to be desirable in an era where how do I want to say it? I think they're in an era where we don't know the full extent of how many cards there really are. Because I think one of the stranger time periods within sports cards is going to be the 2018 to 2020 timeframe. Because once 2020 hit, we pretty much knew that all the print runs were just going to be going through the roof. So like 2021, 2022, and then this year, and then going into next year, we know the print runs are going to be astronomical. I think there was a perception, and I do actually wonder too how much this really affected sports cards in the long term, like this 2018 to 2020 period. I guess maybe if we're talking year, like time frames, it's like it's the Luka year, the Zion year, and then the LaMelo year, I think. Actually, and I even think maybe the LaMelo year could be not in this conversation. I think it's more or less like 2018 to 2020 within baseball, basketball, football, kind of. For the most part, all of them. But I think the overarching question that I will always have is like, did the print runs go up so significantly? Like, did that, I'm trying to think of exactly the way I want to word this. Did the print runs going up without us noticing is maybe the question that I have. Like, was there something, what was going on in 2015, 2016, 2017 where they just decided that they were basically going to like double the print run? I mean, because I don't remember there being, and I mean, actually 2018 was really when I was first getting back into cards. So like the Shohei Ohtani rookie year. And then also, 2018 was also Juan Soto, who actually has a sneaky high amount of PSA cards graded by, or PSA 10s and then PSA 9s, but just overall cards graded by PSA from that, from his like Topps rookie. Ohtani, a little bit confusing because I think he was a short print in one of the products, and then he had a full card in, kind of similar to Ronald Acuna. I think Ronald Acuna was like an official short print. I don't think Shohei Ohtani. I think Shohei Ohtani was in Series 2, but like and then his Topps update. But that was kind of an interesting thing too, because he was in Topps Series 2 and then Topps update. But like I said, I'm just wondering what did sports cards companies really see when it came to increasing the print run? Because I think if you look at the grading numbers, like if you look at like 2016, 2017, like that was, or even 2015, like you go back 2015, Devin Booker, 2016, the big player from there probably maybe would have been Jamal Murray, or I know 2016 was also Jaylen Brown was also in there. I think Ben Simmons, but I don't know if Ben Simmons necessarily right now is kind of the player that he had been kind of over, 4 or 5 years ago when it came to importance within sports cards. Maybe not 4 or 5 years, like 2 or 3 years ago in his importance within sports cards. And then 2017 is Tatum. But then if you look at like Tatum's numbers versus Luka's numbers, it's like an astronomical difference. And I mean, you could even look at Tatum versus Trae Young, who's going to be lower, but even that increase is still like, it's like an insane increase. And then obviously we know Zion has one of the highest number of graded PSA cards of like any player almost ever, and especially that in such a short time frame. Same with John Morant. And then, LaMelo Ball, there obviously was the issue with like that time PSA kind of shut down, so there wasn't as much grading of the LaMelo Ball and that rookie class going on. But so like the Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto years, like I just wonder what sports card companies were seeing. And I know that I'm making a comparison Panini and Topps, but I realistically think that like the increases across the board were probably pretty similar between those two companies. Because you look at like how many Juan Soto Topps flagship cards there are. That's one reason. And same with Shohei Ohtani. And I think with these players, the other piece of this conversation, I think, is I think the value of those cards for those players really is going to probably hit like a peak in the next few years. Like, I really think, if not right now, to be completely honest, like, and I was almost going to say right now, I think is the peak of these cards, because I think it's already been established these players are generational type players. And Juan Soto going to New York, that's obviously a huge move, way bigger market than San Diego. But he's also like, he's in the MVP conversation some years. And then Shohei Ohtani, I mean, I don't really even have to have that kind of conversation with Shohei Ohtani. Like, it would be best case scenario if we see, I guess, Yankees, Dodgers, but it's really insane, honestly, like the star power that the Dodgers have. And like, I would be interested to know like really what their books look like, because I think like the Warriors, for example, and I'm going to use a basketball example here, they did not necessarily something similar, but they just paid all of their players. They paid Steph, they paid Klay Thompson, they paid all of their players that they drafted and that they had these bird rights to within the NBA, because within the NBA you're allowed to sign your own players to extensions and contracts at basically any price for the most part. I think there is like a cap on like the max contract, but you don't have a cap on how many max contracts you really can sign if you're signing your own player that you have the bird rights to. And like the Dodgers are, and I'm saying the Dodgers aren't necessarily doing that, but they are going out and they're signing these best players. So like, I'm wondering if they're taking the same approach where they're saying, well, we're going to pay for all of these players so that way we can win a championship. We'll get more, revenue on season tickets. We'll get, hopefully, especially with Ohtani, I mean, you're pulling in like a totally new market of Dodger fans. I mean, Dodgers, they're the one a West Coast team, so like Japanese, the Japan market, they're going to be able to watch Dodgers games probably. Like, he didn't move coast, like he didn't come over to the East Coast, so like, if you were a fan of him, and I'm wondering if it's similar to like a player in college, where like a player from Alabama goes to a different team, and like I'm wondering if it's something similar to that, like where it's like people in Japan, like I wonder if I would imagine they're still fans. They're probably fans of any Japanese players that are coming over here. So like Ohtani, for example, I would imagine obviously they're still going to be like super fans of him. I kind of would have liked him to go to a team like the Mariners. I think that would have been kind of cool, like, because then you get the Ichiro Shohei kind of mixture there, and I'm sure that they would be able to do something cool with that. But yeah, I guess the whole kind of the point here is like I'm thinking of where I think prices could go for these players, and I just don't see how there's an avenue where prices could really increase, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I just think that the championships, the MVPs, the stature, the mega talent of these players has already been established. And like compared to maybe some other players, and I think baseball is maybe a little bit different because it's like players really can have up and down years more often, I think, than maybe other players. But like, I just don't see how, and this is kind of, I'll wrap the podcast up here. I just don't see how, even if Juan Soto goes on and he wins a championship, or Shohei wins a championship with the Dodgers, I mean, I don't see how their prices really increase. So, like, if you're buying their cards, I don't know. I would expect that you're going to be collecting these cards, or at least maybe buying them and selling them at the price that you bought them at. But I just don't see an astronomical or even really a significant increase in any of these prices, especially with where the overall market is at today. All right, so here we are. The Bowman draft's been released, and the Tom Brady Superfractor actually has already been pulled. And I don't know. I mean, I saw something on, I guess it was Twitter, whatever, and somebody was like, "Oh, Fanatics must be so angry that they get pulled." And it's like, I don't know. I don't think they really. I don't know. Once the product is out, it's like, once the product is out and it's sold, I don't really think that they're angry. And again, sometimes I pull straw man arguments maybe from one tweet or something. I don't know, whatever. But here's the thing that I want to talk about in this podcast. I am equally as confused as I am not confused with a lot of the marketing surrounding Bowman Draft. Now, the marketing that Topps and basically all of like MLB and, a couple different, I think the Patriots put out some stuff. All the marketing is it's phenomenal. The creative that's been put out is insane. It's incredible. And I actually don't know if there's like a marketing award, honestly. Like, I feel like there is. I don't know if there's like the Grammys of marketing, but I wouldn't be surprised if this campaign like wins some sort of award. I did see people saying that the pricing of this product was a little bit too high and it sold out quickly. And that's also kind of one of the other points. It's like marketing is all put together to sell the product. Like, that's where it sold the product. Like the marketing sold the product here. Like it obviously did. But I think also at the same time, it's like the Bowman Draft is one of the more popular products. So I feel like even without spending the time and money on this marketing, it would have sold out at a similar price point potentially. Like because obviously I feel like we within the sports card industry and people within content and people who buy and sell and open packs and stuff, we sort of have an interesting outlook on like products and stuff like that, because I think like within the industry, it's like we look at marketing. So at least some people, I don't really necessarily, I mean, I can kind of see how I can see the other side, but I don't think this way. But like the marketing of sports card products, not cards, because I think on a different podcast I talked about the marketing of cards being that, and that's a little bit different than I think than this. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because I know I'm saying what I'm going to say is the opposite, I think, of what I said about the cards a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the Babe Ruth card. The marketing is, its intention is to sell the product. And I think increased marketing potentially, or increased marketing to this scale, could be potentially why we've seen a little bit of a decrease in some of the quality control, if I'm going to be completely honest, because like, I mean, unless, you know, I guess, I don't know. I have tons of different thoughts about this, because like they probably hired like a marketing firm to do something like this. Like this is like, I feel like this is like a much larger scale project than it would be to just like ask your internal marketing people or internal people to do something like this, because they had like, I mean, there was like a whole commercial that was put together with like Pedro Martinez and Vladimir Guerrero, and I think Larry Walker. I forget who that. Oh no, maybe it's David Ortiz. I forget who the third player in that commercial was. But then there was like a whole, like Tom Brady did a whole thing where he was like he was like a car salesman, and then like MLB came out with like a alternate universe, like what Tom Brady his stats would have been if he had played in the MLB versus the NFL, and like getting Tom Brady as the star of this product is a good marketing tactic, a good marketing concept. I don't know necessarily, like the thing that's odd to me, and I think maybe this is the point that I didn't bring up at the beginning of the show, is like Bowman Draft is one of the more important products. Like, so like I get that the marketing is done around that, but it's like it almost feels like within sports cards sometimes, like we have seen no marketing really. Like this is really like this is like next level, like in terms of like like something that we've seen in this industry, like this type of marketing campaign. And I get people will sit here and say, well, you know, whatever, but you make the products better or something along those lines. But it's like this marketing campaign is like next level, and it just feels like, I don't know. I'm just wondering like if they could have potentially figured out a different way, like a different product, I guess. But I mean, at the same time, it's almost like I don't know if this is the right analogy, chicken or the egg type situation. I don't know if that's the correct term, the correct analogy, but I'm gonna continue here, and maybe it'll make sense at the end, and maybe I'll think of the analogy. But like, Bowman is already the biggest product. Why do they need to try and market their biggest product? Like, is it the biggest product because it's marketed the best, or is it marketed the best because it's the biggest product? Like, and I have seen tops, you know, they put out like the top players from Bowman, but it's the Bowman, or the top players that were in this product from Bowman Draft. But it really just seems a little bit odd that they chose one of their biggest products to spend all of this money on a marketing campaign that, like, I mean, I guess maybe they're looking at it and saying, yeah, it's our biggest marketing campaign. We know, or it's our biggest product. We know we have X amount of dollars coming in because our base is going to buy it. So like, let's try and see if we can grab more attention on the product and get people who maybe weren't going to buy it. But I mean, for someone like myself, like I just feel like I wouldn't probably be buying like a hobby box. Like maybe if I could find like a blaster or something, I'll buy that at like Walmart. But actually, I'm not even 100% sure if they make blasters. But I think that's beside the point a little bit, because it's like, again, it's a good marketing campaign. That's one thing I want to make clear on this podcast. I just am wondering, why, or if there was another product they could have done it with, like if they could have done it with Topps Chrome, or if they could have done it with something else. Because also the cool thing was that they came out with this product with Brady as like the lead marketing person on 12/12, which I think is very smart. Also coming out with the product right before Christmas, I think is also pretty smart, because I mean, I would hope that within the next couple weeks, the next week, because obviously Christmas is actually coming up like in 2 weeks, which is actually insane. But like, I would imagine they'll probably be able to get those products out, like whoever is buying it, or if Topps is selling it, or if it's coming from a hobby shop. And I think also, I'm pretty sure, I think one of my speculations on the podcast for that I talked about this earlier in the week was that there were going to be redemption Brady autos. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like the Brady autos are all live. The 1/1 has been pulled, obviously, but we haven't seen the 12 of 50 and then the 12 of 99, which that was one of the other questions that I had, was if all of the number 12 cards were going to be these inscription autos. And based on, I went back and I looked at some of the stuff, and I think that is going to be the case, that all of the 12 of 50 and the 12 of 99, both of those cards are going to be, they're both going to be inscripted. And I think that they're both live within the product. So eventually, we're going to see those cards pulled, hopefully. I don't know when. I mean, I would imagine, like, the 1/1 being pulled, like, of the biggest card in the whole entire product, I think also is a little bit of an interesting wrinkle in all of this. Like, an interesting, like piece of this marketing campaign, that it's like all the campaign, all the commercials, all the stuff on social media, and then also the 1/1 gets pulled on the first day of the product being open, is, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like, again, I think I saw the tweet, like, or something, it was people were talking about, like, is Topps upset? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I think it maybe makes people want to buy the product more, or if they know, like, if they see that, they're going to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll pull a Brady card, or maybe I'll pull one of these other Brady autos, like, and it's one of the issues, I guess, that I have with breaker marketing, is like, they're obviously going to promote the big hits that are coming out of the product. They're not going to promote the, whatever 12 team random breaks, or I made that number up, but the breaks that really don't pull anything crazy. But it almost feels like a pipe dream that they're trying to sell to people who they're trying to get into their breaks, which, like I said, it's marketing. So, I work in marketing, and that's something that if you can come up with something that can sell a product, that's not something that comes around every day. Like, there's tons of marketing campaigns that don't do well. So we have the first week of this product, the 1/1's been pulled. Or when are these other cards going to get pulled? I don't really know. Like, I would think that Topps knows where the cards are. I don't know if they know specifically which box they're in, but they may know which case they're in, and maybe that case hasn't been sent out. And it really is, like, it almost gets, I think maybe this is a whole nother kind of question or debate of, like, when does Topps have an obligation to sports cards to make the allocation and distribution totally 100% random? I think that's a totally different conversation, and one that maybe I need to get into a different time. But at the question that I'll wrap things up here on this podcast with, that question is, like, if this 1/1 gets pulled, when are these other cards going to get pulled? Does this marketing campaign also, I mean, clearly the Topps sold out of the product, so clearly people are interested in the product at the price that Topps came out with. So what happens to that product on the secondary market? Do more people buy it, or does it, I don't know. These are all questions that I think we still have to answer, with, like I said, Bowman Draft being released, and with it being, I think, one of Topps's, Bowman just in general being one of Topps's biggest products. The other day, probably like Tuesday or Wednesday, I was looking around for topics for the show, and Topps UK and some other people popped up with posts about they were dropping Disney 100 Topps Chrome, a product with the Disney 100 Topps Chrome. Now, I think it was earlier this year, there was a Chinese company that dropped a similar product, a Disney 100 product, and then I think it was, I don't know if it had anything to do with the Disney 100, but I know that there was a Japanese it was Pixar. There was a Japanese Pixar product that dropped, which, obviously Pixar and Disney are the same thing, but they are, the Pixar and Disney, you definitely could differentiate the two between which characters were in which of the products. And so, I guess they called it a secret drop. I mean, like I said, I guess I don't follow a ton of UK, European content creators that do sports cards. I feel like maybe I can't imagine the market for those types of creators is as large as it is in the US, realistically. So, maybe it was completely secret, but it just seems weird that nobody had the info that this was going to come out, because this seems like a massive product, to come out with for Topps at the end of the year, and for them to come out with it only in the UK. That, I guess, it makes me wonder. There must be a reason. It must be that they have some sort of limited license on the Disney 100 or the Disney characters, because the fact that Topps has it has to be, I'm thinking, the more that I'm thinking about it, the more that I'm talking about it out loud, it has to be some sort of European license that they have, because the Disney 100 and these Disney cards that they're coming out with, they're all the main Disney characters. You're going to see Topps Chrome cards, and that's where I would imagine a lot of the product will be coming from if you're trying to order it. I would imagine a lot of breakers and people like hobby shops are probably trying to buy cases and boxes from Europe, because this would be a product that would have insane sales if they tried to sell it here in the United States. And I mean, I'm guessing I would look at it and they're saying, maybe they're looking at it and saying, well, China and the US would both try and order this product pretty significantly, considering that the Chinese company, I think it was Conco, or I think the name of it was, I forget off the top of my head what the name of the company was, but that they came out with the original Disney 100 product, which it basically looks like not like a replica, but it looks like they pretty much took the same design, which, if I had to guess, because Disney is such a large brand, there's probably a decent chance that they were the ones that designed the cards and said, here, Topps, and here, that other company, here's the design we want for our cards. Here's the design, which I guess is good. I would like to see maybe Topps put their own spin on it, but it also, I'm sure that because of how big the Disney 100 branding is, if you follow Disney, I mean, everything is Disney 100 branding, because it's the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company was this year, 2023, I believe. So, and if you're a Disney fan, that over the past few years, there's been a bunch of milestones. I think last year was the 50th anniversary of, it was either 2022 or, it was either 2021 or 2022 was the 50th anniversary of Disney World in Florida. So, I'm seeing that Topps is trying to, I guess, jump on this at the end of the year. I mean, these types of products, I would imagine there was probably a year or two of negotiations with the licensing and with the product development and all of these things. So to come out with the product towards the end of the year, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's similar to I think Prism. It's either Prism Basketball or Prism Football. I forget off the top of my head which of the two, but one of them is dropping I think it's the Tuesday or Wednesday before Christmas this year in the United States. So for them to drop this product in the UK, it makes a lot of sense. And then it also, like I said, it has to be some sort of limited licensing, because if they were to drop this product in the United States, it would do massive numbers. Like, it would do insane numbers. And I'm guessing, like I said, I think the reason they dropped it in the UK it's two reasons, I think. It's one, there's probably some sort of limited licensing, and they know that they can only sell a certain amount, or it could be that there's some sort of profit share that they're doing with Disney, that if they sell a certain amount, that they have to give Disney a certain amount, or they're looking at it and saying, well, if we know that these types of demographics, like different countries, different regions of the world want to buy this product, maybe they're looking at it and saying, well, if we drop it in the United States, then the UK and China, or the UK and anywhere in Europe, if they want to buy this product, it's going to be much harder for them, because like Disney is like a global, worldwide brand. Like, if you look at like where all of the if you look at where the Disney parks are, they're all over the world. So like, maybe it could be that maybe Disney is, or maybe Topps is looking at it and saying, maybe there's like some sort of, because they know how much of a global brand that Disney is, and they know how much globally I think people would want this product. Maybe there's some sort of like tariff, or there's some sort of like tax that would have to be paid if people were trying to buy this product from the United States and ship it other places, where in the UK there isn't this like taxation where, I'm sort of spitballing here, and I don't know exactly Topps' thought process behind why they just dropped it in the UK. I think that could probably be a reason, just based on the fact that, like, I don't know, you look at like stuff being shipped all over the world. Like, sure, the US is probably the biggest market when it comes to sports cards, but like with Disney, that I think the Disney brand is going to transcend just sports cards and card collectors in general. So they probably looked at it and said, well, where can we put this product in the world where everybody in the whole entire world will be able to get the product, and they won't have to pay a premium if they want to get it shipped to them from whatever country. Like I said, this is not knowledge that I have. This is just me making sort of assumptions, and me kind of doing a little bit of brainstorming, and knowing, just kind of thinking about and conceptualizing, and kind of making a hypothetical about like the global market in general. But it's going to be a hot product here in the United States. It's going to be a hot product all around the world. I hope that they come out with a ton of it, because I'd love to see some of it make its way over here to the United States, because these cards are going to be really cool. And it's I guess it is a sort of a version of that Chinese company that came out with the product earlier on this year, but we're getting probably an English version of the product, which I think will be really cool. But I think this also opens it up for the product to be opened, and people to be ordering it from all over the world, not just ordering it from kind of the Asia region of the world.